Okay, now that I've just spent the last half hour fighting with my computer trying to get this live to work, let's see what's going on. Okay, it looks like I might actually be live now. Oh my god. I've just been having like issue after issue after issue trying to get this streaming thing to work again. And I have no idea why. I haven't changed anything. I haven't done anything different. But man, it is, not being nice to me right now. I had all sorts of issues last night. Had to stop and start the stream several times last night or trying to run our D&D campaign. I don't know if I need to just wipe my computer and start over, make little save files for stuff. But oh man, I have been having a heck of a time trying to go live. It's not that I can't go live, it's the stream just sits there and lags and stutters and all sorts of issues. I'm like looking at the screen behind me right now because I can see what's going on. I actually have YouTube pulled up back there because I want to make sure that I'm actually live on YouTube. Twitch I don't seem to have any issues with, but YouTube I guess is the one thing that I've changed. I'm streaming on YouTube now, not just Twitch. So I'm trying to get all that figured out. But like every time I go live, and I don't know, I haven't changed any settings. I mean, maybe because I have a mirrored display for my main monitor for the screen on my painting desk, so I can make sure that I'm in frame on that screen. I don't know, I've been having all sorts of issues. And my computer's been super laggy. I really don't know what's going on. I'm gonna have to do some significant troubleshooting to get all this figured out. I shouldn't have this many issues. Maybe it's because I'm also recording vertical right now. I don't know. Maybe I need a new graphics card, which, likes, follows, and subscriptions would definitely help me, get to that point where, maybe I could make a little bit of money and be able to update some of my streaming gear. But not required, just appreciated. And of course, dealing with things like my camera setup, using my cell phone, which is my overhead camera at the moment, wants to keep adding a watermark because I'm using camo to use my cell phone as a webcam or an overhead cam. But yeah, just been having fits lately with trying to stream, particularly multi-streaming. I don't know what the issue is. And then along with that, I'm, regardless of whether or not it gets banned, I mean, you see TikTok below me right now. My username on TikTok, you can follow me there. I see people going live all the time on TikTok that don't have the 1,000 required followers to go live on TikTok. It's like, okay, they're getting stream keys, they're able to stream their content. It's like, so what are they doing? And of course, there's all TikTok how to go live without 1,000 subscribers or followers or whatever. And it's just reported to TikTok that you can't go live. It's like, okay, so I tried that earlier tonight. So we'll see what happens with that. Maybe I'll actually be able to go live on TikTok as well, but who knows. Anyway, all the frustration aside, get the woo-saw, let's get it brought back, get it calmed down. Let's get into some mini painting. I was actually supposed to be trying to go to a small local game store Warhammer event tonight. They're doing something called Coliseum. I haven't played Warhammer, like the tabletop, in years, but since Space Marine 2 came out, I've been wanting to get back into the tabletop game. These lights make me look like super jaundiced, but I need light to be able to see what I'm doing with my painting. But I really want to get back into the tabletop, which is why I've started painting a new army, in particular Black Templars. I've been working on my first 2 Neophytes from the Combat Patrol. I did a little bit of touch-ups since my last live stream, which of course that worked fine. This one not so much. Anyway, did some touch-ups on them, started doing some edge highlighting, just to get these guys closer to being done. After I get these 2 done, I have 2 more Neophytes to paint and 2 more Initiates from the Combat Patrol. I'm really happy with how these guys are turning out. Of course, this one has got to be one of my favorite minis. The last 2 I finished painting just look awesome. And I got weird stuff going on my screen, and I keep hiding my chat. So if I could not hide my chat for 5 minutes because I clicked on something on my screen, that would be amazing. Because it makes it really hard to see my chat because I don't have it up on screen where I can see it all the time. I just kind of have it off to the side. Whatever program you're using to watch, whether it's Twitch or YouTube, which are the 2 I'm currently live streaming to, I have an app on my computer or program. I don't even know what it's called. Streambot, something like that. Of course, it won't tell me what it's called. Anyway, regardless, I have both YouTube and Twitch chat in the same spot. Like I said, I have YouTube on the TV behind me, so at least I can kind of look out of the corner of my eye on the screen, excuse me, to make sure that that's actually going. Seems to be working fine tonight. But anyway, enough with my incoherent rambling about my frustrations with live streaming. Let's paint some minis and figure out where I was on these guys, because I know I got quite a bit of edge highlighting left to do. Now on these guys, because they're wearing like black pants, I just went ahead and did black for the pants, because of course they're Black Templars. I did a little bit of dry brushing on the pants, just to bring out like the high points of the wrinkles and whatnot, and then started doing the edge highlighting on the harder edges. I did dry brush on the boots a little bit, and then kind of did quick wash with Bad Ab Black to cover up some of the excessive dry brushing spots. But I think on this guy, or on both of these guys, this one has the knee pads edge highlighted. I need to edge highlight the knee pads on this one, and then his hip armor on both of them. You know, around the backpack, I need to get the edge highlighting done there. But that's pretty much where we're going to start tonight. Pardon me while I rip open my wet palette, because that's going to be a little noisy. And you'll have to excuse my paint pots everywhere right now, because like I said, I'm just a mess at the moment. And when I started these guys, apparently I've been using corn red on the guns and chainswords, but me not paying attention, grabbed Mephiston red. So we've got Mephiston red as a base coat with non-oil wash on these. I'm going to go back and do some work with the corn red, going back over the chainsword and pistol, just to give a layer of color on there before I do my edge highlighting, just to kind of bring that natural color back a little bit, add some little gradients here and there, but right now what we're using is the Dark Reaper for edge highlights. Like I said, I need to clear up my desk just a little bit, and had to run to the hobby shop this week, this last weekend. Actually, the Games Workshop store. We have one in the next town over, about half an hour away, because, you know, who'd have guessed it, you know, painting a Black Templar army, you'd go through a lot of black paint. So I needed to grab some more pots of Abaddon Black, so I got a couple more of those. And because I've been painting faces, I wanted to try the Gilliman Flesh contrast. Some of the videos I've seen online, works for a great medium skin tone with was it Cadian flesh tone. So you do some Cadian flesh tone, and then you do a contrast with Gilliman Flesh, and then you dry brush the Cadian flesh tone back over the top of it, which is kind of how I did these two. These two faces are Cadian flesh tone, and then an Ogren flesh wash is what I did. I don't even know if Ogren Flesh is a paint that Citadel produces anymore. But anyway, those are some of the colors I've been using. Some of the techniques I've been doing, you know, dry brushing, edge highlighting, washes. But what we're going to be working on tonight, of course, is the edge highlighting with the Dark Reaper. Add a little bit of water to my homemade wet palette. Wet palettes are easy to make, so if you don't have to spend the money on it, you don't have to. Or if you just want to try a wet palette, you can make your own. Either one works. But since we're doing some really fine lines tonight, get our brush wet and dip into our paint. I know you're supposed to use the back of the brush, but the back of these brushes are super fat, so because I'm not using a whole lot, I just scoop a little bit out, drop it on the edge of my wet palette, take some of the excess moisture out. Of course, add a little bit of water to my paint that I'm using. thin it out, get it flowing off the brush nicely, trying to keep those bristles, you know, nice and wet to be able to keep the paint flowing and be able to do those fine lines. And of course, you know, you can take it, do a little bit on your thumb, make sure you're getting, you know, just that super fine line. Make sure the paint's flowing off nice and easy. And you just kind of brace your hands and start working around the edges of the sections that you want to highlight. And of course, I'm 40 years old and 42 years old and don't have the best eyesight, so need some magnification glasses. These are just magnifying reading glasses from Walmart. They work really well for this. So if you don't want to buy one of those big goofy looking jeweler headset things, reading glasses from Walmart. And you just kind of work your way around the edges of the armor pant, the knee pad is what we're doing right now. These ones are a little harder because they don't, you know, stick out as much as some edges that you want to highlight, like up here. You know, I can just run the side of the brush across there and get that really, you know, easy, clean edge highlight on the edge of the backpack right there. I'll just redo that on the other side. Of course, right around the back of where his neck is going to be. Kind of the same deal. Get in there, go around there. Try and get my camera to focus. Of course, I don't have the best lighting for you guys to see everything that's going on, and we're still using fairly dark colors. And then kind of along these little vents back here. Catch the edges of those. But, you know, we're just slowly working our way around the bits of the mini that we want to edge highlight. Try and keep this somewhere where you guys can see it. Like I said, I need to figure out a little bit better lighting in here. I'm sorry for being a little extra quiet tonight, but that's what happens when I'm irritated when things aren't working right. It's like I'm just going to focus on getting my painting done. And if I happen not to talk as much, it is what it is. But maybe someone will come in and ask questions and start a conversation. And we'll chit chat a little more while we're doing the minis. But as of right now, it's just kind of me sitting here rambling, annoyed that my streaming software has been giving me fits, and I started my stream like over half an hour late. But it is what it is. And we're just going to go with it and keep working on our minis. Getting our edge highlights done. Of course, the other thing I'm kind of frustrated with is, not knowing what YouTube will do if I try and listen to some of the normal music I listen to, because YouTube's a little more particular about copyrighted music. Twitch, they just like ban sections of your audio on your streams if you're using music that you're not supposed to be using. But I prefer my audio not get muted on YouTube, so I'm listening to Stream Beats by Harris Heller. Because it's copyright-free music. I also don't necessarily want to have to pay for music to use on my streams when I'm just getting started on a new platform. But the only music that I actually pay for is Spotify Premium, which just because you pay for Spotify Premium doesn't grant you the license to use the music however you want. Especially if Sony owns the music, because Sony is a bunch of twat waffles and likes to copyright strike everything if they even get a whiff of you using their content, regardless of how it's presented. There's a sound going around TikTok for a while that had a space marine singing I Need a Hero. I tried to post a YouTube short, copyright strike. It took a month for that short to be allowed to go live because, of course, I contested the strike for fair use, and because Sony never responded to the copyright claim, it finally went I was able to finally have the video listed unrestricted. It was just a short. Just had a Space Marine singing, "I need a hero." And as long as I can avoid giving Sony any money, I refuse to give Sony money. Because they're ass clowns. And you can quote me on that. Just trying to get some edge highlighting on these old backpack pieces. These backpacks are like so much harder than the Initiate backpacks to highlight. I don't know why. They just are. Of course, I'm getting that lovely acrylic blob right at the end of my paintbrush. It's always fun trying to paint with that little blob in the way. When you're trying to get your edge highlighting done. Apparently there's something interesting going on behind me. Yes. Okay, so I think we're good on edge highlights. I may have to go to Dawnstone to get some of those edge highlights to pop out more. Because, I mean, you can barely see them. But we're going to go ahead and get back to our weapons. And we're going to use the right color this time. We're going to get out a little bit of corn red to just kind of go over the weapons real quick. You shouldn't need a whole lot, so dip into it, drop it on the wet palette. We're going to keep this pretty thin. Very carefully. Go over our weapons with it. Just very, very thin coat. Just kind of takes a little bit of the shine from the Nuln oil off. try not to take away any of that known oil effect from around that bolt up there. Just bringing out a little bit of that original color back. Kind of doing the same thing on the bolt pistol here. Try not to get rid of all of the grunginess that the known oil adds, but just kind of knocking the shine down a little bit. As I say, use fairly thin down paint for that. Then when you compare the two, a much better color on the chainsword. In my opinion. Some people like the oily, grungy look. I kind of like them a little bit more cleaned up. Yeah, just kind of work your way back around the chainsword, back around the pistol. Just kind of cleaning that color back up a little bit. And as you need a little bit more paint, go ahead and get you a little more paint. And just gently touch it up around the sword and the pistol. I think that looks a lot better now. And a little on the Crusader seal down here. I'm trying to get rid of all of the known oil. I'm just kind of touching up. All right. I got our little touch-ups done, although I did notice something on this chainsword. I'm going to have to go back and tap with some paint real quick. Is right at the tip of the sword, there's like a little bump that you can't see because I don't have my hand behind the camera. But right there at the top of the chainsword, there's a little bump. On this one, got a little bit of lead belcher up there just for some effect. So we're gonna quickly drop a dab of lead belcher on there to make him match. And you'll notice me change brushes quite a bit back and forth. I use different brushes for different paints, different parts of the model. Actual metallic paints are kind of hard on your brushes. So if I'm doing a metallic color, I've been using this brush a lot lately. That looks good. Because I've already been using it for metallic paints. The little metallic flakes get down in the bristles and kind of cut them up and cause them to, the bristles kind of go all over the place. But we're doing pretty good right now. I do need to touch up a little bit on one of these knee pads. I got a little crazy with the edge highlighting. So I just need the teeniest amount of black. Just kind of move that edge highlight back out to the edge of the knee pad. Not that you can really see what I'm doing, because these, highlights are, the paints are so dark because you're building up highlights as you go. You start off with the Abaddon Black, and then you move to Dark Reaper, and then a little bit of Dawnstone to get a little bit more edge highlight, which I think I'm going to go ahead and do. I'm going to try and use this brush. It's a slightly larger tip than I usually use for edge highlighting. But I'm kind of experimenting with these Neophytes. As I go, because for the initiates, I watched a video by Duncan Rhodes on how to paint Black Templars, and I really liked his color scheme, so I did follow his color scheme on my initiates, and I think they've turned out really well. But let's just go ahead and get in here with some of this Dawnstone. Make sure you're keeping plenty of water and plenty of paint in your brush. Make sure your paint's fairly well thinned down. That way it continues to flow off of your brush. And we're just grabbing that very, very edge. Of course, that's why it's called edge highlighting. The Dark Reaper we went a little bit wider with. We're trying to keep the Dawnstone very, very fine line. going around the edges of the armor plates. And just kind of building up that gradient of color. And yeah, this brush is working really well. Holding a really nice tip for me. And these armor panels are really starting to pop now. Definitely getting the desired effect out of this brush. So I think this brush is quickly earning its place as my favorite paintbrush to use. And it is a Hobby Lobby cheapo brush. It's like $4 at Hobby Lobby. So as this one goes wonky, as brushes tend to do, I will be getting more of these. Just a little dry on our brush. When your brush starts getting dry, your lines don't come out quite as neat and clean. Same thing kind of happens if you have too much water in your brush. It's this very, very delicate balance. And every once in a while, just rinse the paint out of your brush, get any blobs out of it, and kind of start over, reload your brush. And grab all those little edges that you want to highlight. And I got a lot more definition on that little front piece. Yeah, just keep working your way around the mini. Flipping them over, grabbing all those little edges. Making sure you have enough paint on your brush to actually leave some on the mini. Trying to keep your hands from shaking. If you have shaky hands like me. Super annoying. I have to go in there and do some touch up. But it's fine. Not ready to swap guys just yet. Do a little bit more on this guy. catch the ridges on the bottom of this boot. Bring some definition down here. Oh man. Okay, apparently I'm just gonna blob paint all over this guy. It's fine. That's why I have the whole paint pot to do touch-ups. Part of my issue is my office is very dry, so my paintbrush dries out really quick. Distinct lack of humidity. And I even have a humidifier in my office, I just never fill it. So that is my own fault. But we're just trying to catch some top edges on these boots. Like I said, just keep working your way around the mini. Trim those edges. Oh, that's where I jabbed it with the paintbrush. That's wonderful. If you saw me a minute ago, I slipped. I was fairly certain I jabbed the paintbrush into this guy somewhere, and it's right on his pouch right there. Gonna have to touch that up. Touch that up. I think half of my mini painting is going back and undoing paint that I just put on. Because I have horrible brush control at times. Like this armor pad right here. I'm just smearing paint everywhere. Because I have no brush control. Oh. Yeah, this guy's just got paint all over him and a bunch of bad spots. So, yeah, just like his whole side right there. I'm gonna have to get out multiple paints to fix him. Because I just got paint everywhere. So I'll grab a little bit of black here. And all that right there. Man, I just got a huge blob of paint on him. We're just gonna go around the front edge of his chest plate here and put that edge highlight back where it belongs. Back to just the edge. Clean that up a little bit. Not worried about that little spot on the insignia on his chest. Push things back out over here as well. On this armor plate. And particularly this armor plate. The edge highlighting has very much encroached off of the edge. Which, as I said, is one of the nice things that you can do. You go back in and very carefully push those edge highlights back out to just being edge highlights. Was it this guy's boot that I put a big blob on? Yes, it is. And I apologize for my camera vibrating because it is my phone and people are messaging me. There we go. This I need a little bit more water in. Plenty of water in my brush. A little bit more paint out of the pot. Really careful back here. I want to get a couple little spots that I got in a little too far. That looks good. Okay. Now that that's done, let's get rid of this other blob of dawn stone that I got on there. Going back to our Mornfang brown, which is our belt color. Blob of paint off of there. This one, yep. Give it a quick shake. Sorry, we're just touching up some oopsies real quick because my hand slipped and I dropped a mini and put big blobs of the wrong color of paint where I didn't want them. So we're gonna go over this pouch again real quick. We're gonna have to wait for it to dry and hit it with another coat of Agrax Earthshade so it doesn't stick out super bad. So while we're waiting for that to dry, we're going to switch brushes again. Because I know I want to use a super fine brush for edge highlighting the weapons. That is not the right one. So we're going to do some Evil Sun Scarlet to do our edge highlights. Chainsword and our pistol. Make sure those bristles are nice and moisturized. Add a little blob of paint here. This part I know doesn't take a lot of paint because I'm not doing a whole lot. Grabbing a little extra water. Thin the paint out, and we're just gonna kind of hit these very edges. Bring out some of the detail on this pistol. Anywhere there's kind of a hard line along the pistol, we're just adding Just a tiny amount of paint. Getting those edges to stand out. Using the edge of the brush a little bit to get them. Very, very tedious portion of the painting project, doing edge highlights like this. But as you can see, makes that pistol look really good. And along the chain sword, this big front edge right here. Again, making sure you keep a decent amount of paint and water in your brush, and don't do that. I guess it doesn't matter, just add some effect to it. I don't know what my deal is, my hands are shaking all over the place tonight. But we still have some of our corn red on our palette, so go back and touch up the hiccups and put the edge highlights back out on the edge again. Flip the chain sword over. Again. Getting that front edge. Carefully around the tip up there. There we go. I've got our edge highlighting done on the chainsword and the pistol on this guy. because we're using such a fine brush and such a small amount of paint. The brush, of course, dries out way too fast. And the paint dries out way too fast, so dab a little bit more onto the wet palette. Making sure we get some extra water in there. Because thin your paints. That's another thing, you can dab a little paint on the back of your hand to take some of the excess paint and water off your brush. Help get those edge highlights a little cleaner. That's definitely what we're going for on that. I love it when I get a good line like that. I'm not talking about cocaine. Don't do drugs, kids. Drugs are bad, okay? Anyway, I'm sorry. I keep getting way out of frame on that. But that sword's looking good in the edge highlight department. So let's work our way around this pistol as well. And apparently my paintbrush doesn't want to cooperate. It's always frustrating. Always frustrating using these smaller brushes. They seem to dry out super fast. Especially when you're trying to get all these teeny tiny details. I'm really trying to, keep this in frame so you guys can see exactly what I'm doing. Of course, that's the other frustrating thing with these models is the more you handle them, the more you flip them around to get all these little edge highlights and details, the more likely you are to rub off some of the paint, which is also very frustrating because you want the paint to stay on the Mini. think that's good for that one. Good edge highlighting there. And this might take a couple rounds. Of paint. There's a spot on the backpack. A couple of them, actually. I just try and add a little bit of color to them. Let that little dot of paint dry a little bit. And add another little dot. And it really brings it out. Oh, Snapchat, why do you have to constantly send annoying notifications about things that I do not care about? Snapchat is the worst about intrusive notifications, I've noticed. It's like, I really couldn't care less about who's doing what in random parts of the world, but because I met them and talked to them like 1 or 2 times, Snapchat thinks I need constant updates about what they're doing in their lives. Fortunately, y'all can't read my watch to see who I'm talking about. Okay. And because I want one more little kind of detail highlight back here. Add these little dots of paint. And we're doing like a little small, teeny tiny detail like that. We just need like one little dot of paint. Now make sure you got a decent amount of water to get the paint to flow off of your brush. Already in your brush. Just kind of tap that little drop of paint on there. And most of the time it works. Every once in a while, there it goes. You get paint that wants to be frustrating and not go on there. But there you go. 2 little lights on the backpack. Done. Okay, and by now, his little pouch on his belt is dry. Not that one. This one. Now I can touch up that Agrax Earthshade because I had to repaint that pouch. So we're going to grab our wash brush, or what I call my wash brush. because that's all I use it for. I'm just gonna tap this back down with the Agrax Earthshade to make it match his belt like it should be. Like I said, you know, half of me painting minis is going back and repainting spots where I got paint where I didn't want to get paint. Okay, so while I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm going to do my highlights on these bronze bits. That's actually Balthazar gold. That's the color. Balthazar gold on the color of the crest on his chest. See that right there? And his belt buckles. Go ahead and grab my metallics brush. Get a drink. I don't always drink Monster. I also have water as well. Refreshing. And we're just going to take a little bit of the Sycorax bronze. Just kind of out towards the edges of the wings. And do a little bit across the top of the skull. And that top wing part. I just kind of bring it in like that and add some definition there. And kind of the top edges of the belt buckle and the belt tip. Kind of grabbing the edges of that. Bronze. Trying to make sure we keep a good tip on our brush. Just a light little swash there. Just bringing out some of that definition on these bronze bits. Just right around the edges. Not getting too crazy. But just adding a little bit of detail to them. I'll do the same with this one. Top part of the wing. A little bit across the top of the head. And then kind of the wing tips out there. Try not to get too crazy with it. Edges of the belt buckle. First, my paintbrush is drying out. Add a little bit of water. Keep our paint flowing nicely. That should have the bronze bits done on these guys. All right. Let me check our little pouch here. That looks pretty dry. So I'm trying to get these two finished tonight. Definitely want to get these two finished tonight and put their heads on and have two Neophytes completed. Got an hour left for the evening since things didn't want to cooperate, but I'm going to go grab another bottle of water and I'll be right back. Fortunately, I don't have to go very far because I got a fridge right behind me. Oh yeah, that's wonderful. Gonna make sure I use one of my fancy black Templar coasters that I 3D printed. Oh, cold and refreshing. So good. One more second. Sorry, I have a nicotine habit. Anyway, like I said, we're going to be doing some edge highlights on our belts. And for that, we're using Scrag Brown. Go ahead and get some on our palette over here. Probably take a little more than what I'm going to need. But it's okay. Paint is not prohibitively expensive to go get more of. Grab a little water, thin my paint down. Sorry if I get too far away from the microphone. Smear some of the paint on my hand to get the tip of my brush right. And we just start grabbing the edges of his belt. Unfortunately, because of how small these guys are, it's a little more difficult and kind of the pose that these guys are in. It's a little more difficult to make sure I keep exactly what I'm painting in frame for people to see exactly what's going on. But we're just trying to grab the very edge of his belt there. Got a little bit more paint than what I wanted on my brush right there. But that'll dry down a little bit. And just work our way around his pouches. Don't be afraid to rinse your brush and start over with, the amount of paint that's on your brush. Like I said, some of these paints dry out super quick. And so while you're trying to do all your little fine details, brush dries out, your paint dries on your brush. You can't get the paint to come off your brush the way you want it to. Especially in little spots where it's kind of hidden underneath something. And I put a big blob of brown where I don't want it. Hey, hey, hey. So I have to touch up the top of that armor plate right there, which is fine, not a big deal. We'll get that touched up in a minute. I'll move over to this guy. And it's kind of the same deal. Just grabbing the very edges of those belts. Those details. Once again, I got that little blob of paint right at the end of my bristles. Super annoying. We rinse our brush, refill it, and then we get back in there and grab all those little edges. halfway across the table, even if you do have little teeny tiny mess ups here and there, I guarantee you no one is going to notice them or say anything about them. Particularly if you're showing up to the table with a fully painted army, which is what I intend to do when I get to the point where I can play with these guys. They will make their debut as a completed army. One little section right back here. There we go. Edge highlighting on the belts is complete. Okay. So aside from their shoulder pads, which I never got primed, which is frustrating. And right now we're, in the middle of, like, it's no longer blizzard conditions anymore, but we got 14 inches of snow Sunday into Monday. So we're fairly well buried at the moment in Kansas. So right now priming is out of the question. But I did miss something on this guy. Unfortunately, I still have some of the paint that I need on the wet palette. And I just rinsed the Scrag Brown out of my brush. We got this little Crusader seal back here. And we're just going to throw a little bit of color on there. A little bit of red. Trying to get some highlight on that, make it pop a little bit. And for a final detail on that Crusade seal, we need some writing. Where's my Sycorax white? Nope, nope, nope. There we go. Because what's a Crusade seal or Purity seal if it doesn't have writing on it? Get some water on our brush. Dab a tiny amount of paint. Make sure we're nice and watered down. just ever so lightly. Add some paint on there because I got a little thick. Do a quick little dab with our paper towel. I think I used too big of a brush for that. Which is unfortunate. So, I'll call an audible on that one. And that's a great thing about, having all of the colors that you need. So I was able to very quickly undo what I did. Add some of our edge highlights back on. Rinse that out. Can't even tell I messed anything up. I just erased it. And now using a much, much finer brush. There we go. That looks better. Because when you're all the way down here on the tabletop, can't see it as much. Much cleaner, much nicer. And why not? Let's add a little bit of detail. One more little detail. Just a little bit of black. Let's see if I can get this to cooperate. Hello, mini scribbler. Doing all right. There we go. Make it look like there's a little bit of cross down there at the bottom. At a distance, that's kind of what it looks like, even though it just looks like a blob of paint super close up. Doing all right tonight. Just trying to finish up a couple of Neophytes from the combat patrol for my Black Templar army that I started building right at the end of last year. So this is where we're at this point. I have no illusions of ever winning a golden demon, but we're Just trying to take care of some edge highlights and fine details. Working our way through the combat patrol. I started with the impulsor when I opened up that kit. So that was the first one I got done, and then I started working my way through the initiates, which I think have turned out very well. I have 2 more of those left to go that are primed and basically based. But I wanted to get a couple of Neophytes done because I've been practicing painting faces. So I have a bunch of little heads on sticks that need bodies. So trying to get those guys done. These first 2 done. I think all I have left to do on these is my silver highlights, and then I've got like 1 more highlight to do on the tabards. And then their shoulder pads, which I haven't been able to prime yet because, you know, we're dealing with freezing temperatures at the moment. And apparently now I'm responsible for the big puppy. Hi, Bruce. See if I can get him where he can see him. Big puppy getting on his couch. Well, that's kind of how my office is. My office is super warm because I have a space heater in here, and I never remember to refill my humidifier. But where are you at that it's 110 degrees, and can I come visit? Because I am done with the cold. Australia. So is that like 25, 26 degrees Celsius? Yeah, y'all are in like your winter is our summer. Not like 40? Oh. Yeah. See, I never learned how to properly convert from Fahrenheit to Celsius. I wish the US would, get off its butt and switch over to the metric system. A base 10 system for distance and temperatures would be so nice if America would get on the train with that. All right, I had to grab another brush out that I use for metallics. Not that one. I don't think it's that one. I have so many paints that I use on these models, I always forget. Which one am I supposed to use next? Yes, this one. Storm Host Silver. We're going to be doing. Kind of weird how it kept imperial measurements when the U.S. distanced itself from English colonialism. I have no idea, and the U.S. continues to have a death grip on the imperial system. Like, we refuse to give it up. The only thing that really makes sense to me is miles, like miles per hour, kilometers per hour. That. Mostly because I've grown up with nothing but that. But when I've gone overseas for vacation, the one time I did, actually, I'm pretty sure the shirt I'm wearing is from Edinburgh, Scotland. Because when I go on vacations, I pick up Harley Davidson shirts wherever I go. I have a Harley Davidson. And it's kind of a, button in Edinburgh. Edinburgh was such an amazing place to go visit. I would like the chance to go back. At the time that I went there, my girlfriend at the time, who is now my wife, was doing a study abroad program in Stirling, Scotland. And so I went over to visit her over there, and of course did all the obligatory nerdy stuff, like went to, was it the Elephant House, where Harry Potter was written by J.K. Rowling. Also went by St. Andrews, because at the time I was working for the Golf Course Superintendents Association of America. So I had to go to St. Andrews just to say that I'd been there. I try to be a golfer. Most time I just wander around in the field and get grass stains on my balls. Lose a lot of golf balls. Mostly because I use clubs I have no business using. I picked up a really nice set of blades and can't hit them very well. But because I like the way they look, I continue to use them and continue to play golf poorly. But yes, I have many, many hobbies, and all of them are expensive. From painting minis to riding Harleys, playing golf. Everything's expensive. But I guess all the fun stuff is. Yeah. I enjoy the sport of golf. Will I ever be a competitive player? Not in this lifetime. 7 handicap? Yeah, that's leaps and bounds. I'm probably like a 25 handicap. I'm that bad. I have no idea what my handicap is. I just use it as an excuse to hang out with friends and drink beer. Because that's how Americans play golf. But yeah, just trying to finish up some highlights here and there. I got super irritated with myself when I went to St. Andrews. Yeah, most definitely an American working man's sport. Although a lot of people use it as a way to network, make business connections. Like I was saying, I super embarrassed. I went out to St. Andrews and probably did the most American tourist thing possible. Uh, I forgot to grab a different pair of shoes. So I was out on the Ball Grove course, however you say that, wearing a pair of cowboy boots and playing golf because I forgot my shoes. I left my shoes in Sterling that morning when we drove out to St. Andrews. It's super embarrassing walking into the clubhouse. Be like, oh yeah, I'd like to, rent a set of clubs, and stupid American wearing cowboy boots on probably the most well-known golf course in the world. Granted, I wasn't on the old course. I was just on the Ball Grove. But I can say I have played golf at St. Andrews and not be lying. I would like to go back. I would like to play the old course at some point. Of course, I will have to practice and get much better to not waste everyone's time out on the course. It's just kind of one of those bucket list things that at some point in the future I want to get back over there and actually play the old course. But I will say, one of the funniest things that I noticed, just of course another American thing, is our local courses always have like this massive clubhouse and pro shop and all that, and you get out to St. Andrews and it's like the clubhouse on the old course by American standards is this teeny tiny little building. So that was one of those interesting bits of culture shock. Where am I at in the States? I am right smack dab in the middle of the States in Kansas. Currently dealing with 14 inches of snow in my front yard. Not a fan of winter weather at all. So if Canada could come down and take its weather back, I'd be much appreciated. Yeah, I think the news was saying the last time we had this much snow was in 1993. So it's been a while. Sorry, I always get a little quiet when I'm doing these like super teeny tiny little details, like trying to find the rivets on these knee pads. Why? Because I just have to do that much extra work on my minis for no apparent reason. But eventually, at some point, I will be picking up when I get this army painted, I will be picking up the tabletop game again. I played briefly during 5th edition, and due to reasons, mostly moving and financial kind of stuff like that, quit playing, and then just haven't had the opportunity to pick it back up. And of course, that new Space Marine 2 video game came out, and I'm like, oh man, darn it, now I gotta go pick up minis and start a new army. Because that's how my ADD brain works. Alrighty. I think these two are ready to have their heads popped on finally. There we are. Haven't heard of Moonstone. Oh, I take that back. Looked at my paint pots, and I have one more tiny highlight to do on the tabards. Because when my paint pots aren't all scattered across the table, I have them stacked in little racks by what order I do my layers in. Yeah, I haven't really painted. I mean, I haven't painted Warhammer minis in like 15 years until I, picked them back up towards the end of the year last year, which in like the last couple of months. And I played, Necrons back in the day, and then going through like Space Marine 2 and going back through the lore and everything. I was like, okay, I'll try a Space Marine chapter, and because the Black Templars are kind of like, we don't really care what the Codex says, we're going to do our own thing. So I started painting a Black Templar army because they have some of the coolest looking minis, such as this guy right here. And so I've been slowly working my way through them. Yeah, I probably should have started with a kill team, but when I was looking through the different kill team options, they didn't have like a Black Templar specific one. It's like, I'll just play, get a combat patrol and start painting them. And thank you. I've, been trying really hard to get these guys looking nice, and I'm really happy with how they've turned out so far. I mean, most of what I used to paint that I've been painting recently over the last few years is like D&D minis that I never play with because I've never had an Aasimar Paladin. I just thought it was a cool looking mini. All the black is a little intimidating at first, but as you get through like the edge highlighting and you figure that out, because it took me a couple of tries. Once you get the edge highlighting to where you're comfortable with it, the armor just ends up looking so good. And I've never been a fan of space blueberries, the ultramarines, but I do have a couple that I've painted, which I like to drag out and show every once in a while because they're actually part of my Necron army, or I use them as parts of my Necron army that my Necrons are attacking. So Necron Scarab Swarm. This is one of the first Space Marines I ever painted. But the Space Marines weren't faring very well against the Necrons that day. And green stuff is some wonderful stuff. But yes, those are the only Ultramarines I've painted. I've got like 3 of them in that army bag down there that I did horrible things to the space blueberries. Because they're my minis and I can do what I want with them. And I have a funny sense of humor. Or at least that's what I tell myself. Get this last little highlight done on the tabards. And just on very, very tips of the folds of cloth. And I know this is unnecessary, but this is what was done in the Duncan Rhodes video that I followed, so I continue to do it on all the minis. And it adds, you know, just that little bit of extra detail on these guys. I'm using like next to no paint, but gives the tabard just that little extra layer of crispness that I think looks really good. And of course my hand starts shaking. Trying to do these, you know, extra fine little stupid lines. And my hand decides it wants to shake. yeah, there we are. And you're about to see part of my sense of humor, because grabbing the right head for this guy. I paint my heads on little pieces of sprue. And because they're painted, I have to use super glue, and I don't know what I did with my new bottle of super glue because I took it to the mother-in-law's house to fix something and don't remember where I put it. So I had to use this older bottle of super glue that gets a little stringy. But yes, now this red-headed, pale-skinned fellow is who I've referred to as Brother Seamus of the Black Templars. So, Brother Seamus is finally completed. Ready? Grab this other head real quick. For the current combat patrol, I have 2 more Neophytes, which you can see them right there. 2 more of the Initiates. And then, was it 5 Intercessors that come in the kit, and the Marshal. And then I think that's it. What is going on here? Apparently this guy has to look down because he's got little knobbies on the back of his head that prevent him from looking straight out. I wonder if he was actually meant, this face was actually meant to go on a Neophyte. It does not seem to want to fit onto the mini. Well, that's frustrating. I might have to come back to this one with a different head because he's got these 2 little things sticking off the back of his head right there that prevent it from going down into the collar on there. That's disappointing. So you are going to have to wait until I find a different body for you. You might just end up being my intercessor sergeant. Well, darn. That means I have to paint another face. Let's see. Come here, oh box of possibilities. I hadn't planned on painting another face on stream. But things happen. So we'll grab another head off the sprue. And yes, I know I should prime him. But I know that this particular head is for a Neophyte. But he's got that goofy haircut, so I didn't necessarily want to use him. But things happen. Sure he's stuck on this piece of sprue and let him sit for a couple of minutes. Let that glue set up. And then we'll paint a face real quick, apparently. Like I said, I've been practicing painting faces because eventually I'm going to get the High Marshal Helbrecht mini, and I really want to be able to paint him without his helmet on. And so far, this is the best face I've been able to do, and that is going on my Marshal when I put him together from the Combat Patrol. Come on, set up on there. Well, unfortunately, that's going to have to be another night. I'm running out of time. But yeah, two initiates, the intercessors, two more, two initiates, two neophytes, intercessors. The impulsor was the first thing I painted. Out of this box. I like most of what I did to it. I got a little crazy with the null oil up there, and so I'm kind of frustrated with that, but it is what it is. I think it looks good, all things considered, minus that radar screen. That annoys me. It didn't come out very well. But when I painted this, I hadn't painted a mini in several years, so you get what you get. But I know eventually I'm going to have to pick up another combat patrol to get the 20-man blob to have Chaplain Grimaldus leading. But, you know, at the very least, I did get him done tonight, and I am happy with how he turned out. So, Brother Seamus ready for battle. But it is 10 o'clock, and I have to get up early to go out into the frigid temperatures to go deliver things tomorrow. Take off these reading glasses so I can actually see. Because my real job is as a delivery driver. But had to get up bright and early to go do that. So I'm gonna go ahead and call it a night. If you want to go ahead and follow to catch me online next time, I usually do Tuesdays and Thursday nights. I'm gonna try and have a good day tomorrow. You have a good night. Thank you. Thank you, Button, for the follow. There's actually a creator on TikTok, or mini painter on TikTok from Australia that I watch his videos a lot, called Creed Sniper. No, he's not in Australia. He's in the UK. I'm getting people mixed up. But anyway, Tuesdays and Thursday nights from 7 to 10 p.m. I started a little late tonight because I was having streaming issues that I'm going to have to figure out. Are my gaming miniature time. So I'll either be playing video games or, like right now, I've been painting a lot of minis, having a good time doing it. Monday nights, I have a D&D group. We stream our sessions from 7:30 to 10 p.m. Monday nights. So anytime you want to stop by and hang out and watch on D&D nights, sorry I can't respond as much because we're role playing, but Tuesdays and Thursdays we'll either be here at the painting desk or over here is my gaming setup. So hope to see you again. But thanks for coming by tonight, and thanks for talking. And we will see you next time. But you have a good night.